This is page 2 of your systems test review. Number 5 says, which of the following is included in the solution set of the system of inequalities? So, as you can see, these are not pretty. They are not ready to graph. So, I suggest we test a point. So, by testing a point means that we are going to plug in these answer choices, which are points. So you've got an X and you've got a Y. So wherever you have an X and a Y, you're going to plug in that point. You're going to test it out and see if it works. So we're going to start with number 1, or answer choice A. So over here, this is answer choice A. I'm going to start with the first inequality. We have X, but instead of X, we're going to plug in 7. Plus 2, and instead of Y, we're going to plug in 0. So I'm going to put parentheses 0 here. And then I'm going to finish writing the inequality is less than 2. So what I'm going to do is plug this part into Desmos to help me do the math and see if it is less than 2. So here is my Desmos calculator. We're just going to type in this first half. So 7 plus 2 parentheses 0 is equal to 7. So 7 is less than 2. Is 7 less than 2? No, it is not. This is false, which means A cannot be our correct answer. So now we're going to try point B. Still taking the same inequalities, we're going to try answer choice B. We're starting off with X, but instead of X, this time we're going to plug in -3. So I have -3 plus 2y. But instead of y, we're going to plug in 0. And then I'm just going to finish writing the inequality is less than 2. So again, we're going to type this first half into Desmos, see what we get. So I have -3 plus 2 parentheses 0 gives me -3 is less than 2. So is -3 less than a positive 2? Yes, it is. So far, that's true. However, this point must satisfy both inequalities. So it's true for the first one. However, we have to make sure it's also true for the second one. So I'm going to rewrite this equation or inequality here and test out the same point. So starting with y, we're plugging in 0 instead. So 0 minus x, but instead of x, we're plugging in -3. So parentheses around the x. So you have a negative on the outside and whatever x value we're using. So that's -3. Then I'm going to finish writing the inequality is greater than or equal to +3. So same thing, I'm going to plug in this first half to do the math for me into Desmos. So I've got 0 minus parentheses -3, which is equal to +3. So is +3 greater than or equal to +3? Yes, that is true. It's not greater than, but it is equal to. 3 is equal to 3. So this is true, which means B would be my answer. Number 6 says the system is graphed at right. What is the solution to the system? So remember from your notes, your solution is where they cross. So I'm just going to put a point at where the two lines cross, and now I have to identify where is that point at. So we always start in the middle and we go X first, so left or right first. So we're going to go right, positive 1, and then we go up on our y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So X is 1, Y is 6. My answer would be C. (7a) says, which graph best represents this system of equations given? So I suggest you grab a graph paper like this one here, and you're going to graph the two lines yourself and then see which one matches. So I'm going to start with the first line. Is this line ready to graph? Yes. Y is positive and Y is by itself, so it's ready to graph. The first thing we graph is my y-intercept, which is positive 2. So I'm going to go on my y-axis down to positive 2 and pull out my first point. Next step is to use my slope, which is 1/2. It's positive, so where would we move? Up and right. So I'm going to go from my y-intercept up 1, right, 2. Plot my point. Up 1, right, 2. Up 1, right, 2. And for time purposes, I'm just going to use my ID. Since it's an equation, we're going to connect all of the points. So I'm just going to use this to help make my line. And that's close enough. So now we're going to graph line 2 using a different color. Is line 2 ready to graph? No, it is not. It's not in slope-intercept form. Y is not by itself. So that means I have to move some things around. What is the first thing that we move? We're going to move my 5x to the other side. So circle the 5x and we're going to move it over. When I move a positive 5x to the other side, it becomes a negative 5x. Once you rewrite it, go ahead and cross this out. Now is y positive and by itself? Yes, it is. So that means I'm ready to graph my second line. So the first thing we graph is my y-intercept, which is positive 2. So going on my y-axis down to positive 2 and pull up my first point. My next step is to graph my slope. My slope here is negative 5. When there's no number underneath, we write a 1. Now where are we moving since this is a negative slope? We would move down and right. So I'm going to go down 5 and right 1. So here on my graph, starting from my first point, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 1. Plot your points. And I only need 2 points to make a straight line, so I'm going to use my ID badge to help make my line. And that is it. So which graph best matches the two lines that we just drew? A does not match my two lines. The intersection is at the wrong place, so I know A does not match. C also does not match where my lines intersect. B does not match where my lines intersect. However, D does match where my lines intersect. So D is my answer. 7b says, what is the solution to the system above? So remember, solution is where the two lines cross. So I would just draw a little picture here to remind yourself that it's where the two lines cross or intersect. So where do these two lines intersect at? We're going to start with my x first and then my y. Remember, it has to be written in parentheses in order to be correct. So I'm going to start in the middle. In order to get to this point, do I move left or right? No, I don't. So that means my x is 0. Okay, now for my y value. Do we move up or down to get to this point? We move up. Up how many? 2. So my solution is at 0, 2 in parentheses. Last question for page 2. Number 8 says, Zach and Cassidy bought limes and avocados at Whole Foods. Each avocado cost $1.75. Each lime cost 45 cents. They bought a total of 18 items and spent a total of $18.50. Which system of equations can be used to find x, the number of avocados, and y, the number of limes they bought? So I am going to use two colors here to identify my variables. And as you can see, your answer choices are just setting up the system of equations. So I'm going to write it myself. I can see that I've got two equations here. So I've got something here, a blank plus a blank equals a blank. And I'm going to have two of those. So another blank plus another blank equals a blank. Okay? Before I start filling in those blanks, I'm going to identify the two variables. So it says x is the number of avocados and y is the number of limes. And now I'm going to start with my total. So what is the total here? There's two totals. The first one says they bought a total of 18 items. So we're going to put here because that equal sign means total equals 18. And this is total number of items. Okay, well, what are the items that they're buying? They're buying avocados and they're buying limes. So the x represents the number of avocados. So that's going to be, x. And the y represents the number of limes. So we're going to put y here. So number of avocados plus number of limes equals the total number of avocados and limes that they bought. The next total is they spent a total of $18.50. So $18.50 is the total here, and that is the total cost. As you can see, there is a money sign next to $18.50. So how much are the avocados and how much are the limes? That's going to give me my total cost. So let's start with my avocados, x. How much are avocados? Each avocado cost $1.75. So next to my x, we're going to have $1.75. And now, how much do my limes cost? Each lime cost 45 cents. So next to the y, you're going to have 0.45. and this should be my answer. So I'm going to go find the answer that matches this best, and that's going to be answer choice C. Be very careful with the ones that you choose. Make sure that the numbers and the variables match correctly when you are choosing your correct answer.